Video gaming is now vastly a more popular medium than it has ever been, with games like God of War selling 3.1 million copies in 3 days, and references to gaming starting to cross over with the film industry. However, gaming is still unrepresented in television, at least that's according to the journalist and comedian Ellie Gibson.
It's hard for people to sort of conceptualise, well, how do you make this interesting or fun, or who would want to watch this? But hopefully with shows like Go 8-Bit, that perception is changing a bit.
Ellie Gibson appeared with other television personalities involved in the gaming show and Darren O'Brien Goes 8-Bit, who talked about the problems facing gaming-based programming.
That for games to be on TV does seem at the moment like that show that you're envisioning would probably end up having a very low budget and being buried somewhere.
You know, if you take a punt on something like a show about video games, you try to push it for a commercial channel and it tanks, that's your job really.
The panellists also discussed how gaming-related content could be used in television in the future and how it could differ from the increasingly popular content of YouTube videos and Twitch streams.
You know, shows like X Factor, part of the reason they're successful is because people can vote with their phones and kind of have an effect on the outcome of the programme. Well, what if people watching a show could play the games that are on the show and affect the outcome of who wins the games on the show? Something like that, I think, could be really fun and exciting.
With gaming-related videos becoming more popular on services like YouTube and Twitch, and an increased interest in esports, we could soon be seeing gaming hit the mainstream of television. It's up to producers now to capitalise on this, if they even choose to do so. This is Stanley Evans Power, Brighton Broadcaster News. Friends of Hastings Pier will be meeting today to discuss the money made through their crowdfunding campaign so far. They are bidding against other businesses for ownership of the attraction, which went into administration in October. The group have collected £50,000 since the crowdfunding campaign started at the end of last month. Today starts the premiere of Men's Cap's Treat Me Well campaign in Buddy Cafe, as charity workers are passing out both information to help those with learning disabilities and a nice cup of tea. Treat Me Well is a national campaign focused on changing how people with learning disabilities are treated in the NHS, with the Sussex campaign focused on making people more aware of the health passports, papers that contain information on a person's learning disabilities. While not medical documents, MenCap says the health passports can be used to help doctors identify learning disabilities, but their existence needs to be made more aware of. With the campaign just beginning, the charity has a target of making 100 people aware of what a health passport is, with continued campaigning and coffee being passed out at Buddy's Cafe. This is Stanley Evans Power reporting for Brighton Broadcaster News.
Loot boxes are becoming more and more prevalent in gaming, appearing in games such as Destiny 2, Call of Duty World War II and Star Wars Battlefront 2. However, the box's colourful and random nature have given rise to political figures comparing it to another box with a colourful and random nature. Loot boxes have been gaining attention after controversy with gamers over EA's handling of loot boxes in Battlefront 2. Their social media team on Reddit received the most disliked comment in the website's history after trying to explain why characters like Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker were locked behind loot boxes. While not considered gambling by the UK Gaming Commission, a paper by the Commission mentions about worries that the link between gaming and gambling are becoming increasingly blurred. With loot boxes generating much profit for game companies like EA and Activision, legislation on loot boxes could have massive effects on the gaming market and a massive loss of profits.
The first question is, what is chiptune?
Well, chiptune is just basically a form of electronic music, but instead of using the traditional synthesizers, such as keyboard synthesizers, you're actually using video game consoles. What a lot of people tend to do is they either track the music on a PC or they will track the music on the console itself, depending on what program and what system they're composing for. The most commonly used program in chiptune is LSDJ for the Game Boy. That's the most popular among the chiptune community, although there are programs like Deflamask, which is for multiple systems. I prefer using Deflamask for tracking Sega Mega Drive music. You get a lot of other programs, like even things like FL Studio is capable of doing fake bit music, as it's commonly known as. Fake bit just means that it's emulating the sounds of that system, but you can't play it back on a real system.
So what do you think is the appeal of chiptune and why do you think people listen to it?
I think for a lot of people, it's down to nostalgia. It triggers a memory from the childhood, from when they played a video game, and hearing that music in a nightclub or a venue can be quite appealing to those that appreciate music from video games, classic video games. I was huge on it, and then I actually got into the chiptune scene myself back in 2011.
When did chiptune kick off as its own genre of music, and where would you trace the origins of it?
I trace the origins back to probably mid-80s, starting with the Commodore Amiga, because the Commodore Amiga got really popular with the demo scene, and basically in the demo scene what people would do is they'd compose music, they'd create their own visuals, and they would send off the floppy disks to magazine publishers. They'd get the music and demos distributed, and people would load it up onto the Amigas or the Commodore 64s. People just sending off the music. It's kind of like the early days of, pre-internet times, to be able to show off what they're actually capable of, to be able to gain recognition in the video games industry, and to be able to eventually get a job.
You have appeared in concerts. Can you tell us what it's like in these places and how the energy is there?
It depends. If it's a small one, you're going to get a small crowd. If it's a big event, you're going to get a big crowd. The biggest events that I played at were Superbite and Gamer Disco. Superbite took place in Manchester, and Gamer Disco takes place in London every so often, and they'll travel around. The energy is really high, so when you get people dancing to your music, it makes you feel good and it makes them feel good.